All right, Delicious. Let's have a cough-free episode. It is the Delicious Recap. We recap Family Matters, the lovely 90s sitcom. But first, Patreon reminder, if you want your episode recaps and interviews early, go to the patreon.com/deliciousrecap, patreon.com/deliciousrecap. It's just $5 a month. We are reviewing Family Matters Season 2, Episode 16, Do the Right Thing. The original air date is January 18th, 1991. The wonderful team of Pamela Eels and Sally Lapidus wrote this episode. I'm so sad that we can't get them on the podcast now because they keep on popping up. Gary Mentier directs this episode, and then we have a guest starring as Todd Helms, Keith Cameron, as Mrs. Eunice Peavy. Is that how you pronounce the name?
Eunice Peavy. That is her name.
Yes. Natalie Kaur as Mrs. Eunice Peavy. Neary Plummer as Mr. Sniplitsky. And Joshua Klauser is just identified as teen. I'm guessing he's the cocky kid with the earring, the leather jacket, the New York Yankee shirt, who's just like, meh, I want 1 month's paid vacation. I want free food for all my family and friends. I don't want to work weekends. That kind of person who thought he was going to get a job at Rachel's place.
It's super dick. I can't wait till we get to him.
Yes. I wrote in parentheses in highlight, probably the one with the earring, because I was there trying to think, like, who the fuck is the teen? Like, just like the woman identified as girl in the candidate episode from last season. When you just say teen, who the hell do you mean?
Right? There are multiple teens on screen right now. Who are you referring to?
Uh-huh. All right, y'all know the rating system. We're going to identify what we like about the episode by appetizer, main course, junk food, dessert. You get it. It's just think of how you would experience a restaurant, and that's how we're experiencing this episode. Boom.
Yes, so sit down and make sure your kid has French fries.
All right, so our IMDb summary. Carl and Steve Urkel, they struggle with their conscience. I can't fucking say this word. I'm like Richie in this cold open, just struggling to say the word conscience. There we go. See, if I say it like that, we're good. Carl and Urkel struggle with their consciences. Fuck, it's plural. Separate situations. Carl finds and wants to keep a diamond necklace. Isn't it a bracelet? Because they keep putting it on the wrist.
They keep putting it on the wrist, but everybody's wrong. It's a freaking dog collar.
It's a dog collar?
Well, it's a cat collar. It's a cat collar.
Carl finds and wants to keep a diamond necklace that's extremely valuable, but knows it might belong to someone. Meanwhile, Urkel is asked to tutor Laura's current boyfriend, Todd, who is struggling to maintain his academic eligibility and remain eligible to date the lovely Winslow girl. All right. We get into another Rachel and Richie cold open, which, I mean, I think about you every time, Andrew. I think, oh, how happy he is right now. It's, I mean, essentially, Richie is being told to not eat candy for dinner. What were your thoughts about this cold open?
I love this little cold open because this cold open is a gem in its own right. Richie sets us up for a dynamic in the episode that we didn't know we were going to get. And I thought it was the coolest thing. And I'm pretty sure this is due to Sally Lapidus and, was her writing partner?
Pamela Eels?
Pamela Eels. I'm sorry, Pamela. I'm pretty sure this has to do with their phenomenal writing because Richie is upset or not understanding fully why he can't have candy before dinner. And of course, Rachel is like, no, you can't have candy. And, you just have to listen to your conscience. And if it's telling you to do the right thing, do the right thing. Hence the episode, do the right thing. Oh my God, this is eating. But he brings up, well, what about that other little voice? The one that's telling me to eat. And it's a gem. It is a gem. And little Richie ate this little cold open up.
Really? Okay. So, yeah, I mean, you pretty much explained it very well. Richie does want to eat candy before dinner, and Rachel feels like this is a good time to have a conversation about those two voices in your head, and the fact that you should listen to your conscience, which actually is a theme throughout the episode. I literally just realized this. So, whoa, Pamela and Sally, so many layers here. And Richie has to learn to be a big boy, listen to the conscience, and I'm with Richie because I think Richie was struggling to even say the word conscience. And I think, did you have the trouble with that word? Because I think it was conscience and consequence that were two words that I had trouble with in my childhood.
Consciousness is the word that I had trouble with. I can't spell it, and it takes forever for me to say it.
Yeah, that word should be banned from the English language. My only problem with this cold open was the ending. I felt like, dare I say, I wanted more. I felt like it ended a little abruptly. I mean, yes, you want a cold open to get started off on the right foot and end with a laugh, and it did because, as you had just mentioned, Richie just sort of wraps it up with like, oh, well, what happens to the voice that tells me that my tummy wants candy? And then, ha ha ha, audience laughter. And then it just felt like a 2-second long cold open. So I think that's my only criticism. It's not so much so that I would make it a junk food, but I was left wanting a little bit more. Maybe Rachel responding to that with some sort of lesson or some sort of joke of her own. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, yes, you want to end the cold open with a punchline, but maybe Richie's punchline wasn't the right punchline, in my opinion, to end the cold open.
It wasn't. The audience reaction was very weird. The whole ending to the cold open, it felt like an episode of Touched by an Angel, where it was like, oh, everybody's super quiet because Richie's going to talk. And I feel like they were coached for that because it's awkwardly silent the entire time until the very end where Richie kind of makes this joke and then everybody laughs and they all stop laughing at the same time.
Right. Yeah, very odd. But nonetheless, a decent enough cold open gets things off on the right foot for you because you got your Rachel, you got your little Richie being the star of the show for a little bit.
And I'm ready for scene 1.
We get into Rachel's place, which we don't get into often at all this season, so it's nice to be able to come back to it when we can. My appetizer kind of starts off this scene. Steve is handing Laura a big tray full of sugar, and he's like, "Here's the sugar." And then he bats his eyebrows and raises the eyebrows suggestively at Laura. He has this creepy, pervy smile. It was just a hilarious way to start the scene.
It really was. The sugar stole that scene. Honestly, it's the funniest thing to me, especially while they're talking in their little dialogue, but then Laura's hot crush walks in and she spills the sugar all over Steve's hands. I loved it.
Yeah. Oh, you mean Laura's 25-year-old looking crush? That guy looked very tall. He looked very much not like he was in middle school, because I assume Steve and Laura are in middle school, so this guy would have to be in middle school with them, right? Todd, the transfer student?
That's what I would think. And I thought we had somebody else named Todd in the series before. And I'm like, is it the same kid and you just went through a growth spurt? But after looking into it, no. He's just some guy that's supposed to be in middle school, but clearly looks like a college student.
Yeah. So, Todd, the new transfer student, we've established that he walks into Rachel's place. Laura's so in love with him. She doesn't even notice. Like, she's just pouring a bunch of sugar onto the tray. She's just like, oh my God, Todd, aren't you so gorgeous? And Steve with the tall jokes. I love Steve Urkel's tall jokes throughout. He's like, well, he seems a bit tall. Must be a pituitary problem. How do you pronounce that? Pituitary?
Pituitary problem.
Which reminds me of the pits of peaches for some reason. But I know that's not what that means, Andrew. You already knew what put that up.
Pituitary.
Pituitary?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you already know what that word meant before getting into this?
Yes, your pituitary gland is a gland that promotes growth during puberty.
I love that. That's a much more simpler definition because, of course, leave it to Microsoft Bing to be all fucking scientific with it. They said it's like the major endocrine gland. It's a pea-sized body attached to the base of the brain. The pituitary is important in controlling growth and development and the functioning of the other endocrine glands. Personally, I found it to be a very nerdy joke by Steve that would go over most people's heads. Or, I don't know, maybe if you were good in science class, I think you told me you were good in science class, Andrew, maybe you got it very easily and it was a big laugh for you.
I got it very easily, one, because I love medical oddities, and gigantism is a problem with your pituitary gland. So I've known about it forever because I just love gigantism. I think it's the coolest freaking, I guess, illness you can ever have in my eyes.
Okay. Did you notice that Steve and Laura looked different in this episode? There was something, I don't know, maybe it was just me. Maybe it's me recovering from my cough and sickness, and I'm just seeing things funny. But Laura seemed smaller, skinnier. The hair looked less thick. Eve had a boxed high top fade that seemed to slant slightly to the right. I don't know. Again, I could have been seeing things, but they just looked a little bit different this episode. Or maybe it's we haven't not watched or recapped Family Matters in so long that I just don't know what these fuckers look like.
You were not seeing things in my note. I actually wrote that hair and makeup must have been on vacation that day because it really looks like they did not do anything to get their hair on point and some of their makeup. I don't know if you noticed it. Laura and Steve's face makeup between their neck and face was a shade lighter and it just looked weird.
What? That is weird. I have to take a second look at that. So not only is Todd the new transfer student there just to look all hot and old, but he is also there to apply for the job at Rachel's place. And I wonder if you were as like amused as I was when you saw the table like where Todd and the other applicants were sitting at. In my mind, it was like a big game of one of these things doesn't look like the other, because you have like this fucking like tall black jock in Todd, and then you have all these like pasty white guys who look like they're from the combination of like a Newsies or a West Side Story or an Outsiders musicals. It was just the odd couple extreme here. Like, what the fuck was going on?
There's describes it perfectly. It describes it perfectly. I was looking, I was like, why is this kid here? And then we got this old man, and then this boy in this like greaser's jacket. I'm like, what is happening at this table right now?
Easy, it's insane. And then you got Mr. Sniplitsky, the white guy. He has like the faded brown suit, the bow tie. He's got the foreign accent. And I mean, clearly, by the way he's dressed, he's taking this restaurant job very seriously, because this is otherwise a job that, you know, kids in their street clothes could just easily apply for. Yeah.
When I saw him, I was like, well, one of the things, John, what was it like when you applied for your first job?
Very first job. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't even remember the very first job I applied for, but I remember the very first job I had, which was I was a cashier at Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know. I mean, I think it was I went to maybe the public library and like filled out an application, or went to the restaurant itself and filled out a paper application and just handed it off, and then maybe waited a few days for an interview, and then I got the job. So it was pretty non-eventful. What about you?
Mine was just like this, except imagine 1,000 people there. I worked at a clothing store. It was my very first job. I was 16, and there was like all these tables set up, and they just had everybody filling out applications. And how weird that combination of people were in Rachel's is the same weird combination I had. I remember there was a dude who had like just shaved, but cut his neck all up, so his like white collared shirt had blood on it.
Damn.
Some random guy in like this leather jacket smoking a cigarette at the table while we're doing the applications. Like, it was weird, and it felt just like this.
Yes. All the outcasts that don't look like anybody. Let's just come together in harmony and try to get our $7.50 an hour. Yes. Love it.
Yes.
Now, Rachel was wearing like a very, I'm going to say, orange, wintry kind of sweater. She had a nice flowery hat on.
Why was she dressed like Blossom? I am tired of her dressing like Blossom.
That's what it was. Yes. Oh my God. Blossom might have been in during that time. When was Blossom on the air?
I don't even know.
It's a good question. Hold on. Because that's, well, first of all, it's very odd for a grown-ass adult woman to be, taking on the fashion of a teenage girl. Blossom came out in 1990. Yeah, same year that, actually, no. I mean, this episode from Family Matters is from 1991. Blossom came out the year before. So yeah, Blossom must have been just the new hot show, and that might have been the fashion. Rachel was doing the Blossom.
She was doing the Blossom. She's like, I'll show you how to do it and do it right. Because it was still a cute outfit, but it was just like, okay, Blossom.
Yeah, man, Rachel. She's trying to stay young. Remember when she had Laura's perfume on for like a hot date not too long ago?
That crime against nature. What is wrong with you?
Oh, God. All right. So Mr. Siplitsky clearly set up to be an immigrant who is struggling with the English language as he's being interviewed by Rachel for the job. Because literally all this guy can say is, "You have a lovely hat," just over and over again. And I feel like he provides an interesting metaphor for the relationship between immigrants who may have just come into this country and these like lower level, entry level kind of jobs. I mean, I find, when I DoorDash, Andrew, this particular McDonald's, I find frustrating because, of the fact that it can be hard to communicate with people who are not from here and don't speak English. But the fact of the matter is that these people come in, they need work, and not a lot of, I don't know how would you say it, Americans who were born in this country originally, like they may not want it. So I don't know. I just saw that moment with Mr. Simplitsky and Rachel, and I just found it very poignant to kind of relate it to the relationship between immigrants and those kind of jobs today.
Yeah, it's crazy how relevant the interaction she has with him. And then after he leaves and she says, if you don't speak English, you can't have this job or something along those lines. It's like, I can't imagine what it is to be somebody who is in a country where English right now is the majority language and you're not an English speaker or English isn't your first language. It has to be incredibly hard. And even interacting with people door dashing who don't speak English, I've seen it on both ends where it can be so frustrating for the person who is an English speaker and the person who's not to try to just get to a common ground. So it was crazy how just poignant that was. And I was like, you can never say that as an employer today.
Absolutely not.
Applicants. But back then, hell yeah, people said it.
Oh, yeah. And to bounce off of that, so Rachel kicks Mr. Simplitsky out, and then she makes the announcement to the remaining applicants. Okay, just to be clear, you need to speak English if you want this job. And then you see like two of the applicants go out the door. And I was like, wait a minute. They must know a little bit of English because they understood what the fuck Rachel just said.
Mm-hmm. Now, I was thinking that too because I was like, well, they must be able to understand English. Because I know people who can understand English but cannot speak it.
Yeah. So then we're left with the street smart teen, as he's identified on IMDb. He's got the earring, he's got the Jerry Seinfeld 90s hairdo, the leather jacket, the New York Yankees shirt underneath. And he's just like, yo, I need weekends off. I need free food for me and my friends. I need a month's paid vacation. One could argue that he might be a certain kind of Gen Z person today, which, look, I mean, work-life balance, yes, love it, but there are better ways to ask for it. And of course, this is the kind of person that just thinks that he's very entitled and that employers will cater to his whims. But thankfully, Rachel was just like, yeah, no, not going to happen.
I love that when she ripped up the application in front of him. I'm like, yes, get that little shit out of here. Now, on the other side, I do have to say, sometimes you got to talk to your employer that way, but it's after you get the job.
Correct. After you get the job, here are things I'd like, and hopefully we can work together, employer. I mean, I'm just going to go through the three things. One, I need weekends off. Well, don't work in a fucking restaurant because that's where you're going to get all your money. I need free food for me and my friends. You don't even have to ask for that. I mean, that's pretty much a given when you're working in a restaurant, unless they're very, very cruel. A month's paid vacation. I mean, restaurants have paid vacation. So I think if you like collect up your paid time off and are smart about it, maybe you could get a month off. Would I propose to it like that before you've even started working? No, because employers hear, oh, I need a month off, and then they just freak out and think that you're not going to be dependable. So maybe just say like, hey, have good time off, have a good paid time off policy, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, like there's ways to talk about it that work. So like me going into a job, when I go for a job, if you can't answer my questions, I'm not going to accept your position. And my current employer right now, I literally was like, this is what I do and this is how I will do it. Does that fit your business needs? And if they tell me, no, we can't do that, then we're not a match. It's time for me to move on. but I'm not going to come in there and just whip my hand onto the table and be like, this. No. But I do feel you have to interview your employer the same way the employer interviews you. And the same way that they treat you as an employee, your employer is an employee to you. So there should be that conversation and dynamic, but it is very important how you approach it.
I agree. I totally agree. So we're getting to a point in this scene where we build false suspense because we kind of know Todd is the only person left standing. So he's going to naturally be the person that Rachel gives the job to. And then, we, of course, see Laura get all excited, like, oh my God, yay, yay, yay. And then she holds Todd arm in arm to the back of the kitchen as if they're going to prom instead of being coworkers, which was very, very amusing. And then Steve, I think, had another tall joke within this moment where he was asking Laura, like, oh, why are you ogling that giraffe?
Steve is so angry about the height. You can just see it building in him. And I love it. No, I wish Steve would have been like, this is against HR, Laura. Why are you touching him? I would have screamed.
Yeah, that would have been a great moment. Steve is really repping the short kinks out there, so I appreciate what he's doing. I mean, it's getting to a point where in this episode with Todd, he does come off insecure, but alas, us people out here who are not tall and who suffer for it, yay, Urkel, you're our champion.
Yes, you're a champion for the short people. I'm in the 5'6" committee, so trust me, I appreciate it.
Yeah. What did you think about when Laura is just glowing about, like, to Steve about how Todd is on the basketball team, and Steve tries to one-up that by being like, well, I just made equipment manager on the golf team, and when those boys need a putter, they come to me. And he just, like, brags about that to Laura as if, like, he's fucking Bill Gates. It was so adorable.
He's got a champion for himself, and the way he does it, he sees the silver lining. It's like, yeah, I've got power. It's just a different kind of power.
Oh, I got a dessert at this point. It's another tall joke because I'm just enjoying Urkel just beating this tall joke stuff to death. This was when it's been confirmed that he is competing with Todd, and he said something to the effect of like, all right, I have some tall competition to win over Laura. Well, I guess I'll wear some stilts and win her back. Like, he just says it with like an earnest optimism. Like, it's just easy to go to a store and get, like, I don't know, fucking Chinese circus stilts, and boom, problem solved. Laura will love me again.
He's like, I just gotta get taller. Forget about all the other reasons Laura doesn't like me. It's just the height.
Laura doesn't like me, then I'll be someone else.
Mm-hmm.
That's the answer.
And doesn't this show beat that to a T?
Yeah.
With Stefan. What are we sending here as a message? Family matters.
Yep. Oh, yes. We'll get to that when we get to that. Scene 2 in the living room. One of many scenes. We're in the living room a lot in this episode. Did you notice that?
Well, we are. This episode is the living room episode.
Yeah. And of course, Mama Winslow and Harriet, they don't, well, you know what? At first I thought Harriet didn't know how to dress casually. I need to ask you what the fuck Harriet was wearing. Because, like, we know Mama Winslow is in her church grandmother dress sewing. At first, from a distance, I thought Harriet had, like, this green silky nightgown formal dress combo thing. But then, as the scene was going on, I noticed, oh, wait a minute. Maybe that's like a green silk hoodie with, like, a green silk skirt. What the fuck was it?
She had on a velour hoodie and skirt. And okay, good telling myself. I recently bought a hoodie that's actually just like that. I'm waiting for it to come in the mail. But it is the cutest, like, answer to the velour tracksuit that I have ever seen. And I was in love with that outfit.
Okay. It was an outfit I've never seen before, and it took some time getting used to. So I'm glad that you put a name on it. I'm so glad that you put a name on it. I'm not glad about the scarf, but this is the scene that establishes our equally powerful B story. Like, the A and B story, like, they're just perfect in syncopation, if that's even a word. This is where we establish that Carl finds the diamond bracelet on the streets of Chicago as he's chasing an ice cream truck. I think that's what it was. He was chasing an ice cream truck And then somehow he just finds this diamond bracelet on the ground that I think might have been stolen, and somebody wanted to just kind of, leave it to somebody else so they can get in trouble. That's my theory. But alas, what were your thoughts about this scene that got into our B story?
We get the joke of the episode for me. This is the crossword puzzle with Mama Winslow. I just love the answer of men being fun and men being fun. I don't know why, but I screamed at it. Um, the thing that I don't like was that Carl came in with this whole story about chasing down the ice cream truck when we could have just stopped at the joke he made, because he makes a joke to Harriet and Mom Winslow and said, "Oh, I just went for a run." And they're like, "Run?" And he's like, "Well, I was chasing the ice cream truck." That was hilarious to me. I thought that was a great joke, and they could have just cut it there. And then he just been like, "And I found this bracelet." But he kind of like helps extra stuff into it that I did like.
Oh, okay. It's funny you say that because, well, first of all, we have to like requote the Mama Winslow joke that you and I love so much. I think it was Harriet filling out the crossword. What's a three-letter word for pleasure? Mama Winslow just says very deadpan and straightforward, men. And then Mama Winslow, actually no, it was Harriet that follows up with how about fun as another three-letter word. And then Mama Winslow was just like, well, they can be. So yes, great moment. That's my dessert. I'm so glad that we both loved that moment. And it's funny that you say about like, that they could have kind of zoned in on the jogging part for a little bit, because I believe it was, Carl mentioning that he went for a jog after lunch in the park, which I find to be a kind of funny thought, because who the fuck does that? I mean, if you are having lunch, especially after work or during work with your police uniform, typically the first thought isn't like, oh, let me go for a nice, like, brisk jog, especially someone of Carl's size. I feel like that's just a recipe for vomiting disaster. I knew that Harriet was ready for a fag joke, though, like when he mentioned going for a jog in the park, because, of course, she said, "You jog?" So I was actually focused more on the terrible idea to go for a jog after lunch. Also, the fact that Carl was chasing an ice cream truck, which indicates to me that maybe they were doing like this sort of like hidden stereotype story where there was like a pedophilia criminal in that ice cream truck that Carl was chasing. No? Am I thinking too much into it? No? Okay. No.
So because I'm older than you, this may not be an experience you had. Did you ever have to chase after an ice cream truck?
Oh, okay. So are you, there were two ways I was thinking about this. It was either that Carl was chasing after a criminal in the ice cream truck, or he was just being the kid that chases after the ice cream truck because he wants his ice cream. I just figured that Carl was a little bit too old to be doing that. So I just took it as like an undercover, like, oh, he's chasing after a sketchy person in an ice cream truck. But you're saying that it's a wholesome thing where he was just literally chasing after ice cream.
Yes, it was ice cream. This person was not handing out lollipops. If it was lollipops, it'd be different. But he just wanted a rocket pop. That's all Carl wanted, was a rocket pop.
Okay.
Chase the ice cream truck.
I'm disrespecting Pamela and Sally's writing so much. I just thought that, like, Carl was chasing after an ice cream truck driver pedophile, but he was not. All right. That's good. Now, what are I know. Again, I'm recovering from sickness, so crazy thoughts enter my head. What are the odds? What are the odds that someone is dropping a $15,000 diamond bracelet in a park in Chicago? I mean, is that something that could actually happen?
Okay, so this is going to sound so weird, but it has happened, and I was on the receiving end of it.
What?
So this happened years ago. I was about 9 or 10 years old, and my dad still tells me the story to this day because I never let it go. But we had just gotten our hair cut, and we were in Pennsylvania at the time. We were walking down the street with my cousins, and I found a red ruby bracelet. And I had this little like stuffed animal dog about this size, and I put the bracelet around the dog's neck, and I was like, oh, this is my collar for my dog. Now, I had found it. I was not going to give that bracelet up. And I was like, this is mine. until my dad made me turn it into the police. And it was actually real rubies.
Why did he make you turn it into the police? Like, why can't we just accept the fact that finders keepers can be a thing?
Right? To this day, my dad was like, you didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. Like, he's like, you literally didn't say a word because you were that angry at us. And yeah, I understand it.
Man. All right. Well, I'm with Carl. So I think it was Carl and Carl and Harriet. I mean, they're getting their hopes up. They're like, oh my God, like this diamond bracelet, we don't know who it belongs to. So maybe if we don't have to return it, we could sell this and get a Caribbean cruise. And but Mama Winslow is, taking the diamond bracelet and kind of, putting it on her wrist and being like, hey, diamonds are girl's best friend. So we don't know. Are we going to use this for Mama Winslow's wrist? Are we going to use this for the Caribbean cruise? And then Carl assures his mother that he will buy her another bracelet that's less ostentatious. Fuck these big words. And then Mama Winslow comes back with, oh, you mean cheaper? I had to look up what ostentatious meant, and it means something that is characterized by vulgar or pretentious display design to impress or attract notice. I thought it was osteoporosis, but that's just me.
Osteoporosis is a bone condition. I was so mad for Mama Winslow because if it were me, forget this turning it in, trying to be a good person, all that crap. Carl went and got this bracelet appraised before coming home. And I think he said it was something like $15,000. Nobody's going to ever see that bracelet ever again.
And they shouldn't, because it is hard out here in these streets. Look, it's not Carl and Harriet and Mama Winslow's fault that you just dropped your fucking diamond bracelet accidentally on the ground. If someone finds it and someone needs a little bit of money to help pay their bills or go on vacation, it's like, okay. But, we're trying to do the right thing here. Carl, tries to go with his moral conscience. He says he'll take the expensive diamond bracelet to the precinct first, and if no one claims it within 30 days, then it's his to keep. 30 long, grueling days. I'll give you 30 minutes.
You had 30 seconds. From the moment I picked that up, if you did not say something before it hit my pocket, it's gone.
Yeah. What did you think about the inscription when you first heard it? It was the best thing ever. I had a great laugh.
Was it for Poopsie?
Yeah. It was to my precious Poopsie. I was like, aw. And then Carl was just bummingly saying, like, God, this city is packed with Poopsies.
I love Carl's reaction. If I picked up something and it said for my precious Poopsie, I'm probably going to get gloves. Why is Poopsie your name?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that would be the logical thought, because who the fuck would give themselves that name or their significant other that name? I mean, I initially thought it was like a gift to a significant other and they were just calling them their Poopsie.
I just said, what did it take for you to get that name, Poopsie? What did it take? Because Poopsie is a very specific name.
You're a dainty, adorable princess that likes to give cute, adorable poops in the toilet. Poopsie. Oh, God. Yeah, that's what my mom would always say about her mother, who I think he still lives in Haiti, is that she's so goddamn skinny that her poops were just like these little tiny cute balls. Just imagine these little tiny cute crunch balls, that you would snack on at the movie theater. That was my skinny grandmother's poops.
Oh my gosh.
They're poopsies.
The B story, though, is my main course. I like the B story so much.
Because?
I just think it's better than the A story, to be honest. It actually has some substance to it. Carl is very funny. Oh, he eats it up. And so does Harriet. They both make me laugh in this episode more than Steve and Laura, surprisingly.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk more about it as we get further into it. Scene 3. Again, we're in the living room, and I'm asking myself, why the fuck are Steve and Eddie lifting weights in the living room? We've gone through this before, because I do remember I think it was a cold open or a scene or whatever, maybe from last season, where Eddie was like bench pressing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think it's that hard to grasp that you can go to a gym, or maybe you can put weights in your garage. The living room is not a place to lift weights.
It's not. The living room is not the weightlifting place. And they never move anything. So they're working out in this tiny space in front of the coffee table. And it's like, Eddie, at least move the table.
Yeah. Harriet wasn't around, I don't think, in this scene to scream her head off and be like, boy, why are you putting your sweat and your dirty weights on my clean center couch? What the fuck?
Right? I'd be so mad. Like, this couch is beige. Do you know what your weights are going to turn the color to this thing to?
Yeah, probably like just an ugly, like the New York post snowstorm gray.
It'll look It'll look like that snow you don't want to touch.
Mm-mm-mm. And oh my God, what a great friend Eddie is. I say partially earnestly, but also partially sarcastically, because Steve is depressed because he lost Laura to new hottie McToddy transfer student Todd. And all Eddie can say in response is like, well, Steve, look on the bright side. I mean, you never had her.
Okay, so that is one of the best pieces of advice you can ever give to somebody, especially if they are a friend. Just be honest. You didn't have a shot in the first place.
Yeah.
And I like that. I was like, Eddie, thank you for a little hard truth here.
A hard dose of reality. Steve is explaining his dilemma of Todd asking for tutoring help because he's flunking geometry, and that could affect him continuing to be on the basketball team. And here Eddie again, when Steve mentions that Todd is an obstacle between him and Laura, and Eddie's just like, Steve, I think the only obstacle between you and Laura is you.
Yeah, I love Eddie. Eddie has become smart, Eddie.
Dare I say, since Waldo came in, suddenly Eddie's IQ points just went up a little bit.
They shot up at least 4 points in this episode alone.
Yeah. So Steve is wondering if he should allow Todd to fly high with good geometry grades or squash him like an insect so he can get Laura. And, Steve, if you were smart enough, you would know. Whatever makes the woman of your dreams happy, you do it, even if it means losing her, because you love her that much.
Exactly. Unless you decide to completely manipulate her, which then you're a terrible person, Steve Urkel.
You're a fucking skinny turd. That's what you are. At scene 4, wow, we go from the living room to the living room. And we are, hey, Judy. Hey, Judy pops up in her blue flower sweater. She has I think she has some yellow flowers on her sweater. Whatever that yellow shit was in her sweater, I was interested because they were matching with the yellow barrettes on her doo-doo braid. Go, Judy.
Judy was the only person who hair and makeup and fashion said, let's make her look good.
You know why? Because she's given limited screen time. So the least that Jamie and her mother have demanded is that I look so damn fine on camera.
They were like, make sure she is that. Because that was a cute little matching sweater and hair barrettes. I loved it.
Yeah. And I believe this is where she was asking Harriet what the capital of Belgium is. And Harriet was like, well, what's your least favorite vegetable? And Judy was like, broccoli? And Harriet was like, no, Brussels, like Brussels sprouts, your least favorite vegetable. Great callback that nobody would know but people like us who watch this show, because what was that? I think maybe last season that there was a moment where it was mentioned that Judy hated Brussels sprouts.
It was last season. It was the episode where I noticed she had the fish for the first time. And she's like, I hate Brussels sprouts, which Brussels sprouts are delicious. Okay.
I mean, nowadays they are. There was actually a story about this where the reason why a lot of people seem to like Brussels sprouts nowadays is that they're they added a different ingredient to it that wasn't there back in the 90s. Now maybe you didn't taste the difference because you always loved Brussels sprouts, but I remember reading a story about that and talking about it on the radio. Suddenly something new was added to Brussels sprouts and now it's become the hot vegetable.
Yes, if you get Brussels sprouts, especially bird's eye, you can get the genetically modified Brussels sprouts, which genetically modified, don't get afraid of it, is not a bad term. But if you buy fresh Brussels sprouts, they aren't modified. And the only noticeable difference to me is the unmodified have a little bit of a bitter hint when you eat them. And the ones from Bird's Eye, where they did the modification, you don't get that bitterness.
I didn't know that. That's actually a good information. All right. I see plenty of Bird's Eye frozen vegetables when I'm fucking door dashing at stores all the time. So I'm gonna take another look and get myself some Brussels sprouts and go to my wife and be like, hey, wifey. Here's what Andrew taught me today.
Give them a try. It's good. Brussels sprouts with a little avocado oil on top of them and cracked pepper. Bake them. Delicious.
Very interesting. So Harriet confirms to Judy that Brussels is the capital of Belgium, and then Judy takes a moment and then it's just like, you know what? I'll let that sink in while I go play with my Nintendo upstairs. Automatically, I just thought like, wait a minute, Carl and Harriet are letting their kids have video game systems in their bedroom? They don't seem like those kind of parents.
They don't. When she said it, I was like, what? They can have video game systems in their bedrooms. The Winslows are changing.
My parents were definitely not like that. I mean, the Nintendo 64 was in the fucking basement or in the living room. It was never in our bedroom. I mean, hell, I didn't even get a TV in my bedroom until, actually, no. I mean, I was still living at home, but I was getting older to where my parents could trust me. But what about you? I mean, were your parents the type that tolerated TV and video game systems in your room, or?
Yeah, my parents were like, you guys need entertainment. Leave us the fuck alone. They were like, you are not playing this video game on the main television because then we can't watch TV. So they always made sure we had our own TVs and video games in our rooms.
I love that tired parent energy. Like, you know what? Fuck it. I just want some peace and quiet. Y'all want your video games in your room? Fine. Have it.
I mean, I'm thinking myself as an adult now, if I had children, my children, unless it was a Nintendo because you can control everything on it, they wouldn't have it in their own rooms. But like a TV, you can have the TV because I don't think you communicate with people through TV. But the game system is staying in the living
room. All right. So we have Carl coming in, and him and Harriet, they're delighted that no one has sought out the diamond bracelet yet. And Harriet is making sure that Carl put a full-page ad in the Chicago Chronicle, and Carl just lies. He's just like, yeah, sure, I did that. And in my mind, I was like, Carl, you forgot that your wife either still works for the Chicago Chronicle or used to work for the Chicago Chronicle. Like, she probably has seen the paper and has not seen your ad. And Carl, of course, confirms that he did not put it there. He put it in the Amish Almanac instead. Great paper, by the way. Lovely stuff about no electricity and riding horses and not giving women their proper rights. It's a great paper.
A little bit of polio, vaccinations, you know.
Carl whines and says to Harriet that they fulfilled their obligation and now it is up for Poopsie to claim it. We get Carl eventually in the living room by himself, and this is where the stereotypical angel versus devil conscience thing comes in. I mean, how many 90s shows have you seen where they have that angel and devil thing?
I can't even count. Like, what 90s show didn't do it? I do love this trope, and I think it is a fun one to use when it's not overused. And we got just perfect amount in this episode of the good and bad and evil. And Devil Carl looked hilarious in that costume. I could not stop laughing every time I looked at him.
He looked like a little cutie patootie in that red costume. Yeah, no, he was just telling Carl, you know, hey, forget the angel. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers. Real Carl then says to Angel Carl, like, you know what? He's got a point. And then Angel Carl was like, yeah, the point is on his tail. And then it came off as an oddly witty line to me coming from an angel. So that was surprising in a good way. And then, of course, after Carl concedes that Angel Carl has a point, the devil came back with like, oh yeah, the point is on his head, which I assume is referring to the halo. So we're just steaming in point jokes here.
We are. We're just throwing insults that don't make sense, but still made me laugh. I was dying during the scene.
Oh, I love this moment though. Like when Devil Carl tells Real Carl that, like, hey Carl, look, you've been kind to everyone, and look at where it's gotten you: a second mortgage and a $10 a day donut habit. By today's measures, that seems expensive, but by 1990, I can't imagine what spending $10 a day on donuts would be like.
Like $40 on donuts. Carl better be getting dozens at a time for that.
Bankrupting himself for no fucking reason. And then Real Carl is telling Devil Carl in response to that donut comment, hey, watch it, bub. And then Devil Carl comes back with like, oh, that's Beelzebub to you? Is that how you...
Beelzebub.
Beelzebub. Oh, yes. Had to look that up to confirm. And I got two meanings of Beelzebub. He is both Lord of the Flies and Prince of the Devils. Why not Lucifer? Why go for the Prince?
Well, Lucifer wouldn't make himself available to humans. If you believe in demonology or the Catholic Church, whichever you prefer, they're both about the same thing. Beelzebub is the son of the devil, and he's the one who actually would interact with humans. So the belief behind Beelzebub and Lucifer is Lucifer is the controller, Beelzebub is the enticer.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a Satanist? How do you know all this?
Because I love demonology. I grew up in a cult church, so we had to know that.
Oh.
And I just always thought it was so cool because is Lucifer really a bad person? Like, I think it's a justifiable question if you look at the book of the Bible. Is he actually a bad person or a bad angel? Because all he wanted to do was bring light and knowledge to people.
Oh, food for thought. Food for thought. So we got Angel Carl asking Real Carl if he's willing to trade his self-respect for a Caribbean cruise, and Real Carl was like, oh. And look, I mean, I've taken a Caribbean cruise. It's a good time, so I kind of get Carl's little dilemma there. And then Devil Carl tempts Real Carl by dressing up in like the Caribbean shirt with the Caribbean dad vacation hat. And then he's like, Dale, like singing Dale from Harry Belafonte. It was great. Yep. And then there was a weird, funny moment to close out the scene. Carl ultimately goes with Angel Carl's side and decides to seek out the original owner of the diamond bracelet. And then Angel Carl just brings out this unseen hallelujah chorus out of nowhere. And then poof, Angel and Devil Carl are gone. And Real Carl is left to fend for himself with his decision making.
It was definitely a great end to the scene. I love the hallelujah chorus. I love Handel's Messiah. That's where it's from, and I love that performance. So I was enthralled when I got that. I do, however, have to say, Carl, you made the wrong decision. It would only feel immoral until you get on the cruise. Then once you're on the cruise, all morality is gone.
I love that you say that. I'm totally on Devil Carl's side on this one as well. I just feel like, Carl, you didn't steal the bracelet. You don't know who the fuck it belongs to. It just happened by chance that you found it on the ground. Again, especially like in 2024, but I would imagine in 1990, maybe there was kind of a iffy economy happening. Life is tough in these streets. When you're working class, you got to do what you can to survive. If you got something for worth 15 grand and you want to cash in on a vacation or pay your bills or whatever, do what you got to do. Not your fault. The owner was irresponsible and careless. Do what you got to do. So this is where the devil is not a liar. Sorry, Black Church.
The devil's not a liar. The devil was right this time. And honestly, Carl is a civil servant that is Black living in Chicago. Any money he gets, he deserves.
There you go. I agree. All right, we go to Rachel's place for scene 5. Steve is sweeping up Rachel's place at the end of the night, and Laura comes over to ask if she can talk to him about Todd, and Steve made me laugh when he was like, gee, Todd this, Todd that. I'm so tired of you talking about your hot toddy. Let's hashtag that, Andrew. Hashtag hot toddy. Come on, let's put it on Instagram.
Okay, so we have to make sure that we do it in a space where we will not get flagged for alcohol promotion.
Oh, that's a thing?
Yes, a hot toddy is whiskey and hot tea put together.
Was that still a thing back in 1991?
It was.
Okay. I did not even know that.
That's where the joke came from when Steve was like, oh, you're hot toddy. I was like, oh, that's hilarious.
Wow. I mean, not being that familiar with alcoholic drinks, I thought Steve was just being playful with the name Todd, but okay. Hot toddy it is. All right. Hey, here's a dessert. Oh, God, I love how dramatic Steve is being here when he expresses his feelings to Laura about her asking him to tutor Todd. He's like, oh, why not drop a boulder on my foot? Shove bamboo shoots under my fingernails or scoop my eyeballs out with a melon baller. It was just great because this kid is losing his fucking mind.
I love that Steve went to Vietnam War torture tactics. That's the guy. I screamed. I was like, what? I was like, how are you going all the way here? But then also, you're a piece of shit for trying to put that on Laura. Very bad.
Well, Steve likes to do that. He likes to put that guilt on Laura That comes off as very manipulative.
Take a break, John.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I was just so worked up and so emotionally affected by this episode. What did you think about this scene, by the way? Because this is where Steve gets his version of the whole angel versus devil thing. Angel Steve versus devil Steve. Coming up to him when Steve's all alone and he's trying to figure out what to do. Should he tutor Todd? Should he not tutor Todd? And if he tutors Todd, should he give him the right answers, the wrong answers? Your thoughts?
Steve's devil calls himself Steve's id. And when he said that, it sent me. That is my second dessert of this episode. It was such a smart joke. Pamela, y'all ate me up on this one. Y'all did.
And Sally.
And Sally, Sid, Pamela and Sally. I'm going to get your names together. I am. Y'all ate me up because this was a very good joke.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir. This is a disgusting fucking moment. So, like, Devil Steve suggesting to real Steve that he tutors Todd and gives him all the wrong answers so that he fails, and Laura somehow thinks he's undateable just because he flunked geometry. And now Devil Steve is telling real Steve that he would be able to have luscious Laura all to himself. I was like, why are we calling a middle schooler luscious? Don't do that.
Very weird language. Very, very weird. But it's like, okay, this is Steve Urkel, so I kind of get it. But I'm like, luscious? What in the world?
A fashion comment on Angel Steve, the white glasses, action, the white angel robe. Did you notice that?
I love those white glasses. I want a pair of white glasses now because of that.
Seriously, I have been in love with colored glasses that match clothes ever since I saw Al Roker. I think I saw him on the Today Show like one day, and he was wearing like purple glasses with like a purple tie and like a gray suit. It was great.
It's the purple glasses. I love those purple glasses.
I want them so bad, but I don't have fucking $14 million like Al Roker. So I can only afford my one pair of glasses that I've had for a year plus so far. So
you're still doing awesome. And glasses are expensive. They are expensive. So keeping them this long is important.
They are. The Hallelujah chorus comes back out because Steve has made the decision that he will tutor Todd and give him the right answers. And my main course actually comes in because I don't know about you, but I was fascinated by how differently I felt about Carl and Steve's scenarios. It's very easy for 90s shows to make the angel versus devil scenario seem like a black and white thing. Like, oh, the angel's always going to be the good one. The devil's always going to be the bad one. But actually, in this case, I'm with Devil Carl and I'm with Angel Steve. So sometimes the angel is the right choice. Sometimes the devil's the right choice. Sometimes, and like, you know, let's say, for example, the angel tells you that maybe it's a good idea to save your money instead of spending it frivolously on something that is not as important as bills. Sure, I'll go with the angel. But then the devil might say, oh, you know what? You got a few $100s and you've been working hard. Go have promiscuous sex and go see an event. Have some fun. Live your life. So sometimes the angel and the devil can have good points.
Sometimes they can. I'm generally inclined to listen to the devil. Why not have fun?
There you go.
Have all the time in the world after death to be holy or whatever the crap you have to do for that. I have to say I'm on a different level with you, though.
Oh,
I agree with Carl's devil. I don't agree with Steve's angel or devil. I think they're actually both bad options. Because in this scenario, what we had happen here, Steve is being forced to do something he doesn't want to do by someone he's been trying to force love onto ever since we met him. And in this scenario, the right answer to me would have been Steve to say, no, I'm not doing it. Like, you try to express that, hey, Laura, I like you. This is really hard for me. You should have stuck with that energy and said, no, I'm not doing it, Laura. Tutor your boyfriend yourself. You're smart.
You know what? You bring a good point because there is both inevitable pain and optional pain. I think my therapist called it optional suffering, but you get the point. Mm-hmm. Like there's that kind of suffering where it's like, you don't have to do it. Like, you know that by tutoring this guy, Eve, you're going to be reminded of the guy that took your blessed, luscious Laura away from you. And that's a terrible feeling to have. No one's putting a gun to your head to tutor this guy. I'm sure you can find some other smart person in school. Steve can't be the only one having A's in that Chicago school. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. Steve just shouldn't have to only choose between the wrong tutoring and the right tutoring. There should also be a third choice that says, hey, you know what? No, this is too hurtful for me. I don't think this is appropriate, Laura. Todd should find somebody else. Maybe Todd himself should do the work and seek someone else rather than Laura doing some of that work for him.
Yeah. Like, how come Todd is not tutoring himself on his own tutoring? How is Todd not studying on his own? And if the tutoring is as simple as giving answers, then that means you're not giving him anything for longevity anyways. And why upset yourself? Why make your own self bad? That just doesn't make sense to me. Move on.
Surprise, surprise. We are back in the living room once again. Scene 6. Carl just is jinxing himself. He's coming into the living room excitedly with Mama Winslow and Harriet. Like, they're doing chores. Him and Harriet get excited because it's officially been 30 days. Now they can claim the diamond bracelet for themselves. And what happens, Andrew? What we all expected to happen. Dong! The doorbell rings. And we assume already that it's going to be the owner of the diamond bracelet. You're laughing because I said something inappropriate?
No, I'm laughing because we're leading up to my favorite Mama Winslow moment ever.
Oh, this is my... Oh, is it this? Is it this dessert that I called fucking hilarious in my notes? I think I know. I think it may be. So the old lady, like with a smile, who reveals herself to be Mrs. Eunice Peavy. Mama Winslow opens the door, and she's like, "Oh, are you the people that have my diamonds?" And Mama Winslow, just with an equal smile, is just like, "No," and then she just closes the door. I laughed too. Yeah, that was a great moment.
Oh, she says no so smoothly and just in one movement closes the door.
Without hesitation. No, close the door. When you give Mama Winslow a moment, she knows how to fucking shine. She knows how to make little precious moments like that. Like, you don't get too much of her. You don't get too little of her. You get just the right amount of her. And when she has moments like that, it's just golden.
Yes. Like, oh my God. I rewound that part of the episode about 50 times. It's literally saved on my phone because I love it that much. It was so hilarious. And just the smile on her face when she says no and closes the door. I'm like, Mama Winslow, Rosetta, you gave us gold.
Now, here's a question I have to ask. At this point, is it really benefiting Mama Winslow at all to keep this bracelet? Because it seems like it's going to be more toward like Carl and Harriet wanting to sell it for a vacation. And there didn't seem to be talk about Mama Winslow joining them. Like earlier in the episode, we seemed to have this like bouncy back and forth where it was like, oh, Carl and Harriet will use the bracelet for vacation. Or maybe Mama Winslow will keep it for her wrist because diamonds are a girl's best friend. So I did like that joke that Mama Winslow just gave, but I also wondered, like, are you going to benefit at all from this bracelet? Because maybe your son and your daughter-in-law are just going to use it for themselves.
I mean, I was thinking the same thing too. And then I even looked up what a Caribbean cruise was back then. It was nowhere near $15,000. So like there would be money left over for Mama Winslow. But the thing that I think why Mama Winslow is so happy, when Carl and Harriet are happy, her life is less stressful. And if they're on a vacation out of the house, Mama Winslow probably would have the house to herself.
Oh, good point. Good point. So Carl and Estelle are the fun ones who want to keep assuring Eunice Peavy that she is not the owner of this diamond bracelet. But of course, Harriet has to fucking kill the fun and have a moral conscience and say that Eunice Peavy, you did indeed find the right address. Come on inside. Can we just discuss for a moment the name Eunice Peavy and how it sounds like, I think I wrote down, it sounds like the name of like an eavesdropping, moody old lady that wants to like get up all in your relationship gossip.
She is the neighbor who's looking out the blind every time you walk to your car. She is that neighbor.
Yes, I saw you. I saw you, Margaret, walking out with that man of color. What doing?
That is fully her. As soon as I heard her name, I'm like, ooh, you know she's annoying.
Yeah, I mean, Peavy doesn't give excitement to me, so it just sounds like you're peeping all over my fucking space. Stop it.
You paper.
I know. But there was an ironic moment where Eunice PV says that she would have been at the Winslow house sooner to get her bracelet back, but where was she? On a Caribbean cruise.
Mm-hmm. Which would have been another reason for me to kick her out. I'd have been like, get out. Why are you here?
Mm-hmm. But did you notice the slight British accent that she had?
I did. She had like a little British accent. It kind of sounded like what's that show? Bridgerton. How it sounds like they've got like a Welsh, I think, accent is what it's called.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. Um, and I, and I also think I feel like poopsie would be something that the British would say a lot, though. You know, like, oh, let me have tea with my own poopsie. Like, it just seems very British sounding. So it all made sense to me when, the inscription was confirmed as "My Precious Poopsie" by a British-sounding Eunice PV.
It makes a lot of sense because they have a lot of weird things they say over there, and I love British accents. I just don't understand what y'all are saying half the time.
Yeah, that's why subtitles are good on that Netflix. Yeah. Oh God. Now, I was kind of almost celebrating for the Winslows when Eunice was like, "Oh, thank you so much for getting my bracelet back, and now here's." And at first the Winslows were like, "Oh no," when Eunice was insisting that she give something, but then when Eunice mentions that it's a cash reward, everybody's just like, "Oh wait, well, on second thought, why not? Sure, we could have a cash reward." I almost thought that Eunice was just going to pull out like $15,000 in cash from her purse to match the amount of the bracelet. But no, goddammit, she has to be the fucking stereotypical stingy rich person and give Carl $20 like he's a fucking waiter. Remember, she was just like, "Oh, please don't insist otherwise. I will give you this because this will change your life, old poor police officer."
How out of touch you have to be standing in these people's house and be like, $20 will do it.
So Eunice is walking out the door, and then of course, I'm slow because I didn't know until this moment that Eunice is about to reveal that Poopsie was actually her kitty cat, not a human being, not Eunice herself, but a kitty cat. A kitty cat has a $15,000 diamond bracelet. So Carl has every right in the world, after Eunice leaves, to just cry himself to sleep like he did.
Yeah, Carl, I would have to. If the person came to my house, one, I wouldn't have let you in the first place. You're too late. You had 30 days, girl. But the other side of it, to find out that that belongs to a cat, when I tell you, I would have to go to Harry's and say, I love you. I love you so much that I am going to go sleep on the couch for the next month.
Yeah.
That's how much I love you and I want to save our marriage.
Yeah. And I also found it like, it isn't just like a sad commentary on the state of America. You know that phrase, the poor get poorer, the rich get richer. And when the rich get richer, they get bored with their money that they spend it on stupid fucking things like a diamond bracelet for a kitty cat.
That's exactly it. Once you got that much money, what can you do? But it sucks. That really sucked for that to be the ending of the episode. That is probably one of the only things I really did not care for.
It's not the ending of the episode. We still have one more scene.
Oh, yeah, we do have another scene. I've gotten spoiled with 16 episodes.
We gotta wrap up this Steve and Laura story, of course. Again, we're right back in the living room. Scene 7, Laura is on the phone. She mistakes Mr. Urkel for Mrs. Urkel, or is it the other way around? I think she mistook.
He mistakes Mr. Urkel for Mrs.
Got it. Laura was asking on the phone if Steve was there to talk, and then I think Mr. Urkel on the other end was like, "Oh, Steve is making a pizza," and then we get like the same thing that happened in that other episode where Laura was calling Steve and he was like in the shower, and then he comes in 2 seconds later with his bathing cap and his towel, naked. This time, Steve, the moment he hears that Laura is beckoning his call while he's making a pizza at his house, comes over with the longest, saggiest fake dough draped over his neck, ready for whatever Laura has. By the way, that pizza dough looked like a wool sweater over his neck. It just didn't look real. Like, what the fuck?
It did. I was like, this is the worst crocheted scarf I've ever seen in my life. It looks so weird.
I don't want to eat that pizza.
No.
Wool sweater pizza. No.
The wool sweater, and it probably has anchovies in it. I would not want to eat it.
Well, yeah, it's Steve. So yes, he probably put a little bit of anchovies paste and then he called it a day.
Mm-hmm.
Laura's sweater, by the way, it had to me like a combination of like fall season themes and Christmas themes, which was interesting because we're in January of 1991 and both Christmas and fall have passed by then. So I don't know. That was just a thought.
I wrote in my notes, Laura's sweater is post-holiday New Year sweater. Yeah, I wrote it because I was like, I don't know what this is supposed to be. Like none of the little pictures or patterns on it really seem to mesh well at all.
Yeah. It was a sight to see for sure. Um, so Steve comes comes over to the house in mid twirl with the pizza dough draped over his neck. Um, and I found it hilarious. Of course, Steve could not contain his excitement when Laura reveals that Todd and her broke up. Steve pretends to be a consoling, caring person and asks Laura what happens. But then, if you remember, there's this pause before Laura answers where we see Steve like quietly have this big goofy smile and then thrust his hip in excitement. He was celebrating.
Steve was happy. He's like, yes, I'm going to celebrate your downfall, which, Steve, you deserve it. You put in the hard work, so why not get a little enjoyment? But it was funny to me when he thrust his hip. I don't know why his hip thrusts are so hilarious.
He knows how to thrust them hips. He knows how to do the moves. Steve, Jaleel was probably looking at whatever fucking weird dances Bill Cosby was doing on the Cosby Show, and then just decided to copy and paste. So Steve is making a strong case to Laura now. You know what? What have we learned? A strong mind is important more than a tall body. And then Steve follows it up with, I am 98% brain and 2% brawn.
Steve knows his lane and he plays it very well.
I was also thinking about brawny paper towels in that moment. I mean, imagine if you had, instead of the 98% brawny guy that we had on the face of the paper towels, we had someone that was 98% brain and 2% brawny. On the face of the paper. Imagine if we had someone scrawny like Steve Urkel on the face of brawny paper towels. Wouldn't that be great, right?
I think it would be. I am morally averse to buying paper towels, but that would be a paper towel I would buy.
What is your case against paper towels? Is it like a environmental thing for you?
It's an environmental thing, but it's more, why am I paying for something that I'm going to throw away? Its use is to be thrown away. That to me is a waste of money.
But how do you clean like your surfaces and your countertops and all that stuff when it's dirty?
With washcloths?
Yeah, I guess so. And then you just let the water air dry afterwards.
I mean, you wash it out, wring it out, let it air dry, and then boom, when laundry is at the end of the week, you wash all your washcloths that you use for stuff and then reuse them.
You're saving so much money. Paper towel is expensive.
It is. I am a cheapskate. I don't pay for television, John. You know this.
All right.
So for me to buy something that its specific purpose is to become trash, I don't get it. I can't do it.
Okay, so by that logic, do you not buy toilet paper?
Well, I have a bidet.
Oh, you do?
I do. I have a bidet, and I like to be clean. So you got to wash your butt.
How the fuck did you? How do you afford a bidet? And how does a bidet end up in an apartment in Rochester?
Oh, I have the cutest little Art Deco apartment, and bidets are a big thing here. I mean, I think every apartment in my building has a bidet. I'm pretty sure it does.
So you can get by without toilet paper or paper towels.
Yeah. I mean, I still get like the wet wipes. Like you got to have something like in an emergency to wipe. But like paper towels, not a chance in this world. Everybody who comes to my house knows Andrew does not have paper towels. Don't ask him because I think they are the devil.
The white devil, the white brawny devil with the flannel shirt and the mustache. All right. I love this line. You can tell me if I'm wrong. Feel free to, but I felt like Laura spoke for a lot of women and gay men everywhere when she admitted to Steve that, like, yeah, I want a guy with something upstairs, but I also want a well-built staircase.
Yeah. Yes. She spoke to me directly.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Like, you can be smart. I need you to be smart. I need you as a man to don't come over here talking about you want me and you're not building a staircase that can lift me up. Okay? You could be fat, skinny, I don't care. You better be sturdy. That's all I need.
Sturdy like oatmeal.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord Jesus. All right. And of course, Steve is not okay with himself and how he looks. He tells Laura that he asks that he will be more than happy to put himself on the Muscle Master. Before you know it, she'll be drooling all over his deltoids. Never knew what the word deltoid meant, but I'm assuming you did because you love science.
Deltoids, I think no, yeah, this is your deltoids behind your arm, right? Your muscle behind your thingy.
The definition online said it's each of the three parts of a deltoid muscle attached at the front, side, and rear of the shoulder.
Boom.
Yeah, I just thought of Altoids, the mint. I thought Deltoids was like the orange version of Altoids. I thought that.
Don't give me Altoids. Go to the dollar store and get Deltoids. That is their brand.
My last part about this scene is this was actually a dessert. I love. It's rare that we end a Family Matters episode with a dessert. When Steve like flexes himself to the point of being like, "Laura, I'm hurt. Can you carry me home?" And then Laura has to physically carry him home. And yeah, that just was a laugh.
It was fun. It was a fun way to end it. That was my last note. Laura and Steve's physical comedy is getting so much better. Seeing them in scenes, and now I cannot wait. I can't wait until we get to the season where they have their fight with each other outside of the show. I want to see how their energy changes.
Their fight with each other outside of the show. What do you mean?
Jaleel talks about it in the book that at some point, I think it was between season 4 and season 5.
Oh, yes. Yes.
He and Kelly had a falling out.
Yes.
So I want to know, like, do we notice that in the show?
I think we should. Yeah. So in Growing Up Urkel, the Jaleel White memoir, he mentions that like early on in season 5, maybe the first 10 episodes or so, him and Kelly had a falling out. So as a result, like they were definitely not speaking to each other off stage, but on camera, I believed that they weren't even like looking at each other. Like they barely made eye contact. So we have to keep a lookout for that. Let's get to our delicious star rating, if you don't mind. How about you go first, just in case I need to do more coughing and blowing my nose?
No worries. So this episode for me has scored a 2 out of 3 stars. So the reason why that is, this was a very good episode. I enjoyed a lot of it. It would have almost been a 3-star episode for me, but I feel like the A story did not get the treatment it deserved. I feel like a lot of what we needed to know about the A story wasn't there. Like Laura meets this guy apparently at the interview. They had never talked, but he goes to school with them. And then all of a sudden they're boyfriend and girlfriend, which we had no idea because they act like they never talked to each other in the world when we first see them together. So I was like, oh, I wish there was a little more fleshing out of the story. And that would have brought it to a 3 for me. But Richie, Carl, Angel Devil moments, the comedy, it was all on point this time.
I will give this and I struggled with this one for a little bit because I was like, oh God, maybe this should be another 2.5 or like a 2.7. But if I have nothing bad to say about an episode, I don't see why I wouldn't give it 3 stars. And that is what I give this episode. I had no junk food. I enjoyed Steve and Estelle, especially. Like they were really playing to their comedic strengths. Steve, as always, with his physical comedy, the great lines he was given by Pamela and Sally. Estelle, as always, her deadpan, quick wit, and her very fake pleasant smile when she closed the door on Eunice Peavy, trying to get her away so they can keep the diamond bracelet. That was a prized dessert moment. I loved how Pamela and Sally connected the A and B story by way of the angel versus devil consciousness device, because that usually doesn't happen. I mean, usually the A and B story are fairly separated, but like this was a matter of like Carl having a big dilemma where he has to wrestle with his moral conscience, and Steve is doing the same thing. And how will they approach it uniquely in their own ways? So great job by Pamela and Sally adding that thread there. And yeah, Judy, Rachel, Eddie, Richie, Did I say Richie already?
You did. Wow, you just made me realize we got the whole cast to this episode.
We did. And like Judy, Rachel, Richie, Eddie, especially Judy, not utilized that much, but I didn't mind it. I felt like the little times they were used, it was just fine, you know? Because sometimes, especially if it's a Judy, it's easy to be like, oh, well, you were used so little and you were underdeveloped so much that I think you're a junk food and you should have not been in it at all. But no, I just thought that the little bitty, itty bitty moments that you got, Judy, Rachel, Richie, and Eddie, were just finely appropriate. And all around, what a lovely episode. Highly recommend it. Thank you, Family Matters, for such a good time as I struggle to not cough up a lung.
Thank you, Family Matters. Sally and Pamela, thank you. It seems like, and this is to your point about Judy and having her interjection in the episode, Eddie and his interjection in the episode. I feel like Sally and Pamela have the ability to display what a real family would be like. Because, like, in a real family, everybody is always present at some point. They're in the house, they're doing something, but everybody has their own little things that are happening. And that's kind of what we got to experience. Like, Laura had her stuff, Harriet and Carl had their stuff, but Eddie's like, hey, okay, nothing's going wrong in my world, so I'm going to work out. Or Judy's like, I'm going to go play video games. You guys are weird. And that is the perfect family dynamic.
Oh, boy. I agree. Totally agree. Well, you know what, y'all? You're delicious. You're delicious in every way. And you want to keep being delicious? Well, you know what to do. Fucking listen, watch the Delicious Recap wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on Spotify. You can listen to us on Apple and whatever other podcast platforms you may prefer, iHeart, whatever. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Reddit, Patreon. Just search the Delicious Recap. Find that picture of Steve Urkel, the Living Single Cast, Fresh Prince. You'll find us there. Patreon, especially, because for just $5 a month, you get episode recaps and interviews earlier than the general public. $5 a month. You know you want to do it. Patreon.com/delicious recap. Andrew, how can people motherfucking follow you like it's the end of the world?
So you got a couple of options now, You can follow me on TikTok. That is the main way to follow me. You can follow me on Blue Sky, and you can follow my YouTube channel. And that's all at AJ Vandertunt. So just AJAYVANDERTUNT. And I will be available for you to view content. Please bear with me when it comes to getting to messages. But one person I meant to mention at the beginning of the show, if you made it to the end, Ramen, who follows us on TikTok,
I know,
has been really in here, in the trenches with us, and I love you for it.
Yeah. I see some regulars. Thank you, Ramen, and all those other wonderful people that I see commenting on TikTok. We appreciate you. Christian Demerit, every now and then, comments. Christian Demerit, a Family Matters fan who we had on the show not too long ago. So thank you for all the TikTokies at Delicious Recap. We appreciate you, and keep on following us, because what follower count do we have to get the Creator Reward Program benefit?
So we've got to get it to 10,000 followers for Creator Reward Program. Just as a side note, there is a possibility that TikTok may be sticking around now. It's still up in the air. Nothing's fully. And even if we don't get a chance to go to the Creator Rewards Program or live on TikTok, I have our Blue Sky page set up. And our Blue Sky, we can go live there as well.
The next episode, do you already know what it is?
I do know what it is. I don't remember what it's called, but when I was sitting and rewatching tonight's episode to refresh it, it just continued on to the next episode. And from what I saw in the first 5 minutes, I think this is about to be a good episode.
All right. It's called High Hopes. Original air date, February 1st, 1991. We shall see you then. And Andrew, do you mind giving us a ringing sign-off?
Yes, because today has been a delicious day. The world has been delicious. We've got to let the deliciousness ring for this, because next episode, John, there is some specific deliciousness geared towards you.